Welcome back to another edition of As You Were. Fuck me.
Uh-oh.
You know what that was? You know what that was? Classic case of brownie throat. We've talked about it before.
Oh, yes.
I just posted an Instagram or a Twitter video where everything's going so dramatic in the Barstool office right now, but down here in Texas, things are looking good because I went to go make my lunch. I made a nice little turkey melt. Next thing I know, I open up the brownie container that my wife made brownies on Sunday. Last brownie, and it was a corner piece just sitting there for me, ready to go. Well, and it popped out because last one usually you could have to pry it out, like it'll get the little crusties on the side. She greased the pan so well that it just slid across the pan and straight onto my plate. I didn't even need to get a fork or a spatula or anything.
Good for
beautiful.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Was that beautiful. Left for you on purpose?
She said it was, but she's also very mad at me. We'll start the show with some. So I've been for a while. I think it was really Tammy and Amy from 1,000 Pound Sisters that got me back into it. But I've been crushing sodies and been putting on some LBs back on.
Sody pops. Yeah. It's dude, the biggest weight loss. The only time I ever notice when I lose weight, because I'm usually pretty steady, is when I cut all that shit out and I just stick with water.
You cut red wine and you cut sodies, and you can drastically improve your physical fitness.
Yeah.
And so about 3 weeks ago, I decided, listen, no more sodies in the house, because I had my refrigerator in my office, the refrigerator upstairs, loaded down with I must have drank me about 14 Dr. Peppers that day, and I just had sody after sody.
Really quickly, the problem with and this is not a shot across the bow at Dr. Pepper, Coke, Sprite, ginger ale, anywhere. But now so many of them, it used to just be Coke Zero. Now all of them have the zero variety. And you're like, oh, that's not that bad. It's like, it's Sprite Zero. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still not great for you. So I got rid of all those. I just had the little water enhancers. I got these little packets of flavor of like grapefruit that I'll add to a water, or little Kool-Aid spritzers that I'll put into my water, and it makes it a lot better. But occasionally I still want something fizzy, because that's that Coke. Having the fizzy aspect of a Coke is nice, like especially with like a sandwich or a hamburger or something like that going along with it. Well, I'll have a LaCroix with my lunch. I'll have a turkey sandwich, some baked chips, and some fruit, and a brownie today. Not exactly healthy, but because LaCroix, it's like those videos on TikTok where the dude's like, I'm going to try to chug a LaCroix in 15 seconds. He's like, oh God, what happened? Runs and hits his head on the garage door.
Yeah.
I essentially, you can't help, if you drink it quickly, you can't help but burp. Like you can't help it.
It's true.
And Annalise's office is only like 15, 20 feet away from our kitchen. So I'll be sitting at the kitchen table, and I'll forget that she's in there, because you have object permanence, like she's not in the room. I don't see her, so she doesn't exist. Therefore, I'm basically a grown toddler. So I've been taking these sips of the LaCroix, burping my ass off while she's in these meetings. And she did it yesterday, and she texted me, quote, Matthew, what in the fuck is your problem? You're disgusting while I'm on meetings. And then today, she said, it just happened again today. And she said, why in the hell did you come back upstairs and burp so goddamn loud again? You have to stop. It's so loud and gross and embarrassing. You did it as soon as I walked in and I was talking to a comms person. You are so disgusting. Like, you need to talk to a medical doctor or your therapist about it. There's something actually wrong with you, which fair. So she's upset. She's upset.
That's
with
fair.
me.
I get chastised the same way, because Alex is right outside that door, and she'll be on work calls, and I will get all caps text.
The best part,
please shut the fuck up.
The best part about Alex now, though, is that because after this Army Navy game, we actually exchanged numbers. So if she hears you saying some bullshit, she texts me during the podcast with stuff to refute you by.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
That was a dangerous teamwork there between us.
And she was so happy because I put her name in as Alex Crehan.
Wow. All right.
She was like, I think you're the first one. You're the first one.
You are, definitely.
You're exactly right. We had that big news, and we also have some more big news that we'll get into round number one. But most importantly, we have 5 rounds of the magazine today. Round number 1, you might have heard her voice already, but Katie Kovic joins the show to talk about her
Kate, you look much better.
The viral devil.
I still feel like dog shit, but it's better than the first few days. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, Kate pulled her hair back, because yesterday it was you were in a world of hurt. Your voice still sounds like you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah. And I'm vaccinated. So
A
watch
triple
out.
vaccine, as some would say. Round number 2, how on earth did we start shaving our flaps and balls? That's an excellent question. You asked, we answered. We dove deep into the research on that. Round number 3, Norway is making their soldiers share, wait for it, underwear. That's right. Because of the global pandemic, they're not having enough skivvies in the Norwegian army. So they are making everybody share. I can't imagine. Well, I actually did that at boot camp, and we'll talk about it in round 3. Round number 4, when I found this out, my jaw dropped. Did you guys know that Larry David was in the army?
No,
What?
was he?
Yes. And we are going to talk about it.
Wow, that makes me like him even more.
I know, it's shocking. And I swear to God, once we go through round number 4, if they don't make this movie with Larry David still at his current age, it's a huge mistake. I think it would become the new Stripes, honest to God, because it would just be so perfect seeing him running around in a boot camp environment. And finally, round number 5, we haven't done this in a while, but I have a surprise round on hand.
I love surprise rounds.
I know, me
too.
too. It's one of my favorites. And all of that is going to be brought to you by my other favorite, which is Whistle Pig. If you haven't tried it, Whistle Pig is the best. I think it's a seltzer now. It's a hard seltzer in the game, but it's made from rye. It's not made from corn or whatever the fuck the other people are doing it. This one is more flavorful, but it doesn't taste like some of the other ones. They're great in their own regard. Like if you're at a football game, you're at a tailgate, but sometimes they can be a little light. I think for the ABV, if you don't want to just crush them all day, if you want to have a little nicer one that feels like a cocktail, but it still comes in a can, I would definitely go with Whistle Pig because they're piggyback barrel-aged craft cocktails in a can, and it's so much better than seltzer. It's crisp, it's refreshing, it's super bold and flavorful, and I don't think there's anything like that. I know there's not because I'm a big mixed drink connoisseur, and I don't like to do it. One, because my kitchen is like all the way upstairs, and we have a wet bar like in our master bedroom where we'll make we have a wine rack there, we have wine glasses and a fridge and things like that. This way I don't even have to go upstairs to get ice. I just have it there, pull it out, put it in a frosty little cup that I keep in the freezer, and it's fantastic. You could do the same thing too by going to visit piggybackrisemash.com and get more, and make sure that you get their whiskey too, because you're going to want to try that. They have the bar back, which is great. If you want to spend a little bit more money, they have Boss Hog Farm stock. And then they're just regular Whistle Pig rye, which I believe is the best rye under $75 in America.
What? Calling something Boss Hog, I'm buying it. I don't even care what it is.
Sick logo.
It is. It's an unbelievable logo.
There's these logos now that come out that just look so crisp and clean, and like Rose Apothecary from Schitt's Creek. Like that logo is so good because it's so timeless and classic. I ordered chicken from a place called Southerly down here that has like a Michelin star chef that does fried food, like Southern food, but elevated. Sounds great. Like when it came from Uber Eats and it's in this thick paper bag, and the display and the presentation was so good and so nice. And then they don't give you enough chicken to wet your whistle. Like you gotta up the numbers. If I'm going to be ordering cornbread on a Friday night for a date night, it better be good fucking cornbread, and you better give me a bunch of it because I'm going to be pissed if not. I expect it when I order like a steakhouse or something like that sometimes the meals can be a little bit smaller. Not with fried chicken. Don't you skip me.
No, fried chicken's definitely like one of those foods where you think almost anywhere you go, you're going to get an overabundance of. They're always going to overserve you, right?
Yeah, and that's the way it should be because I had it all set up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have chicken. I didn't want to go out to the store here. We had some bad weather, so I didn't want to go out and get super wet and rainy and things like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to crack open one of these blueberry fizzes that they got from Whistle Pig and pair that with a little bit of the fried chicken. Not enough chicken. I only got through half of the fucking Whistle Pig. Unbelievable.
Oh, come on. Be better chicken place.
Exactly right. So you could do that. Make your own chicken in your own air fryer and go to piggybackrisemash.com to get that stuff sent directly to your door. All right, let's get going with the show because we are late already. We're late. We are dropping late, and that's because one of our own very sick Katie COVID.
Yeah, not great. I have to tell you. So on Friday night, after baby was in daycare last week, Friday night, he starts to get really sick. And I'm like, oh no, it's a classic daycare illness rolling through. In the middle of the night, I hear him coughing. I look on the monitor and I just see vomit explode across the crib. And he normally doesn't throw up. He's not like a spit up baby. I go running in because I'm like, oh my God. I pick him up, vomit explodes all over me, all over the floor. I don't know how his little body, it had to be like 2 days worth of food and
Oh
milk,
my goodness.
vomit everywhere. That this continues all through Saturday. And then Sunday, he's good. He's pretty good. I take him for a walk outside. We're not going out in public, but I take him for a walk. Like, he seems a lot better. And I think, okay, we're in the clear. That was just a quick bug. Sunday night, I start to get these chills so deeply that I thought I was having a panic attack or something. I was like, Pat, can you come in here and just put your hand on my back for a moment? I just need a human touch because I feel like I'm like losing my mind. Oh my God. That didn't stop the COVID or whatever the hell this is.
You mean what?
Human touch. A few
That's
hours
the first
later.
thing Fauci says.
Yeah, I thought so.
You know what sucks? Sunday afternoon, I do this thing where I bought all the discount Christmas candy again from CVS. I must have eaten an entire bag of Butterfinger Bells.
Good for you.
An entire bag.
Man, good for
of
you.
Christmas
Yeah, but
M&Ms.
right before you throw up.
Right before I threw up.
That's
dude.
not good.
Right before
Brownie throat like you'd read about.
It was like, yeah, and I had made a super mayonnaise sandwich, like, and then just ate
my
how's the whole bag.
Oh man.
Next thing you know, it was like Randy from South Park, where he's shitting and throwing up at the same time on the thing. It was like a nightmare. I was throwing up so violently, I thought my eyeballs were going to explode out of my head. I was delirious. Hours into it, I couldn't take, my mouth was so dry, I would take like just a sip of Coke and spit it back into the sink, and then I would still throw up. I curled up in a ball on the.
You went with Coke in that situation.
It was the only thing with carbonation we had in the house.
Okay.
I curl up in a ball on the shower. I must have laid there in a boiling shower for like an hour and a half.
Love a good lay down in the shower. I will say that, regardless of the scenario, laying down in the shower is
but then when you're already fevery, the dread of getting out when it's cold,
dude.
Yes,
and you
that's the
cannot.
worst.
It's like trying to get dry, and you're all like, "I'm so cold, my God."
Yep.
Yeah, you can't get your hoodie on fast enough.
Then I was super hot, and then I had the chills, and I went and tweeted about it, and I'm like, "Great, I have the baby's daycare illness." Everybody's like, "Oh, you have norovirus. It's like a 2-day bug that goes."
That was the first thing that went through my head. I'm like, Kate's gonna lose. She just got daycare back, and she's gonna lose it again.
And so I messaged them to let them know about that. I'm like, hey, he's been sick over the weekend. He seems better now. And now I have it. But they're like, as long as he's not showing any symptoms, he can come in. So I send him in on Monday. I checked in with them. They're like, as long as he doesn't have symptoms, because on Monday I couldn't function. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. I couldn't get out of bed. Like, I was so fucked. And so I send him to daycare. And then in the afternoon, I start seeing everybody that I was at work with on Thursday and Friday tweeting that they have COVID. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So
like
I
that
get
sound from Squid Game where it's like, oh,
I take the rapid test, and lo and behold, I also have COVID. I think I have a mix of like a shitty stomach bug and COVID, but holy fuck. So then I had to
no, they say diarrhea is a big part of it, and throwing up. Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Okay. So that probably So I feel terrible now, because then I had to message daycare and be like, hey, whoops. Well, I'm fucked up that I have COVID. The baby probably does too. So now it's just the whole process is crazy. They won't accept my like at home test. I have to go get a PCR test, but I can only do the drive-through because I have COVID.
And we can't skip this. This shit's insane. Like, if this would happen right now, I'm watching Sister Wives on Discovery Plus, like going back a few seasons. And they're talking about the beginning of the pandemic right now in the show, like where I'm at in it.
Oh, I would hate to relive that.
And but it's honest to God hilarious. Like, looking back and how just unbelievably ignorant everybody was when it first came out. Like, they're like the two daughters, they came back from Chicago to go back to Utah to meet up with the family. And they're like, I don't know if we should hug. We haven't seen you guys in a while. They're like, oh no, it's fine. As long as you just turn your head a certain way and you can hug each other, like you shouldn't be able to get it. And then if you wash your hands, you'll be fine. Like, looking back, I'm like, that's basically
dude,
what I thought.
I was so stupid when it was early 2020. I don't remember. It was January, February. I was meeting with the organization that I do work with, and we were trying to plan our spring event, and people that I work with, they were saying, we should probably add a clause to this in case any of that COVID stuff comes over here. And I said to the group, guys, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's never going to get over here. It's not a big deal. Let's stop worrying about it. We don't need to worry about canceling the event. Well, I was extremely wrong, obviously.
Yeah, but it's crazy. So they won't. So they want me to go get a PCR test as soon as I can. Well, there's very few drive-throughs. You have to go into a building to get these. And I said to them, I'm like, I'm not going to go in. I know I have it. I know I
Right.
have it. I'm not going to go into a building. So I
Like
finally.
would they have accepted like a Instagram stories of you? Like just send them the picture of yourself yesterday.
Yeah.
And be like,
Yeah.
That should suffice.
this is
Like-
better than a PCR test.
So,
Yeah, like,
Kate,
no,
I'm
I
trying
have
to
it.
follow though. You need a PCR test to come back negative to be able to show that you can send your son back, or
No,
what's
I need to, they need proof that I for sure do have it. And the baby's going to get tested this afternoon because they need to know, did he for sure have COVID when he was in
Oh.
the classroom with the other kids? But by the time the results come back a day or two from now, they're all still in daycare. Like,
right? They've been
everybody-
waiting those
Cass
last 2
wouldn't
days.
be like he wouldn't be passing it on to people by the time that he got his stuff back.
everybody's fucked. And so they said still though, no matter what, even if he tested negative and say I test negative 3 days from now, doesn't matter. No matter what, he's not allowed back for 10 days. So it's like, I feel like every
But
time
I imagine you still have to pay, right?
I still have to pay.
Oh,
I
that's
just-
baloney.
I feel like every time I start to get back in the swing of things, something, because you cannot work with a baby. I'm sorry. Some people can. I can't do it.
I think anybody who says they can is just lying.
Well,
I
you
just
could do
can't.
it if you have no limits on screen time, which I don't anymore.
I
have-
try. I
I've
don't. but-
completely. I saw one psychologist. I talked a little bit about podfathers. I saw one child psychologist who did her PhD in child psychology on screen time for infants and toddlers.
Yeah, I'm fascinated
she-
by that.
And she was like, there hasn't been actual research. It's just been anecdotal by parents. And she was like, I did the actual research and it doesn't show any correlation between lessened attention span and lessened learning capability by being on screens for an inordinate amount of time. And
Yeah,
I just think that's all I needed to hear. I'm not,
Yeah.
that's like my confirmation
Sure.
bias. That's all I need.
Yeah,
I don't. I
I
just think back
try.
to us growing up. Like we all played video games. I don't think to an extent where we were just sitting in front of a screen for days on end, but we all grew up.
But
playing
even
video
there's
games
even
and-
ours was different. Like if you were playing at your house, like Connor's at his house, maybe it's different if you're playing with your sisters or something. But when you were at home, you couldn't talk to Billy down the street. Now these kids can talk, like they'll be playing. Cardi does it all the time, plays like Minecraft with other kids or plays Fortnite with other kids and talks to them, engages. And some of them, the good ones, like Megan making money, her kid and my kid are real good friends now. So they'll actually FaceTime on iPads and then
that's cool.
play together and talk about like what they're building and shit. And to me, that's not screen time. That's the same.
Yeah.
That's like modern playing outside.
That's modern interaction.
yeah.
Although through a
Yeah.
screen, but you're still. I wonder, and I'm just thinking out loud because I'm not a psychologist, as you guys know,
True.
if that is any different than interacting face to face 3D. Like you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like this, like we don't see each other that often,
No.
but we feel like we know each other and like get to like interacting and things like that.
Yeah.
I firmly believe, and I've said this over and over again, Annalisa and my relationship is so unbelievably strong. Like the friendship between us is so strong because the first 4 or 5 months of our relationship, we spent hours on FaceTime and Skype talking to each other instead of going like and being physical or going to the movies and not talking. We actually had to formulate a friendship that makes us
Yeah.
friends first.
That's such a great point too, because I think probably for the most part, when you were doing that, you were talking and interacting as opposed to there's plenty of times where we're just sitting on the couch together and not saying a word to one another, but you're
And
not going
that
to do
feels
that
comfortable.
if you're
When you're
FaceTiming.
together,
Yeah.
that feels comfortable. But
Right.
whenever you're on a screen, you feel like you have to keep it going a little bit. So Kate, you had this big time sickness. And so we wanted to military show. We have to feel like we have to tie everything into the
Yeah.
military some
Yeah.
way. I was like, Kate, on a scale of 1 to your trousers in Afghanistan, how sick are you?
Yeah.
You were like, it's probably the same, right?
Yeah, I think the worst sickness the most like violent, because I've had some pretty bad hangovers but the most violent illness
Non-alcohol or drug induced sicknesses.
yeah, was food poisoning in Afghanistan, where I was so sick. I was shitting. First, I was vomiting so much that they gave me muscle relaxers to stop my stomach muscles. Well, as soon as they did that, I just started shitting my cami pants, and then I passed out, and they had to give me IVs and like bring me back, like I was like super fucked up. That was the sickest. The cramps in your stomach. Oh my God, the pain. This was like a number 2 to that. This was like the second worst. Fucking horrible, dude. Especially all those Butterfinger bells, man. That's what it was.
Yeah, because it's so
Nightmare.
thick. Like I was
So-
thinking when you were saying it,
milk chocolate.
milk chocolate filled belly throwing up.
The initial vomit.
It might be the worst. It might be the worst.
The initial vomit was like, oh, dude. And I had beets
You're
that
like pulling it off your teeth and shit.
Oh, you had
It
beets,
was
so it's red.
fucking terrible, dude. It was
God.
terrible. So
You probably
anyway.
thought you're dying. I mean, that color beets plus chocolate would look like rich
blood.
iron-filled blood.
Dude, I'm on all fours with my head in a trash bag. And I'm like gasping for breath. I was throwing up so much I couldn't breathe. I look over for help.
Cash
and Pat,
like yanking on you, like, Mom, pick me up, you lazy bitch.
Yeah, Cash is screaming, and Pat's on the couch listening to a podcast, like do 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 do. I was like, okay. Anyway,
I'm sure that went well.
Yeah. But yeah, and now he's trying not to get it. He's the only one right now. I'm pretty sure the baby and I have it, which I feel terrible about. I'm pretty sure I gave it to the whole daycare, which I feel fucking horrible about. But the whole process is insane. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, so we went through and we asked our social media followers, what's the worst that you got sick while you're on active duty? Some of them are fantastic, as you would expect, like sharding while towing an H-60 into a flight line at Pax River. I mean, it's always the most inopportune times when it hits you. Like there'd be days if I knew that I was going out for a long mission, like knowing my stomach, even before I got injured, I still didn't have the best stomach. Like if I was going out to do something that was going to take like 10 hours, I would rather be starving and super hungry than having to tell a convoy or something like that to stop because I need to take a shit. Like it's the most, especially when you're junior. Like and I was a Lance Corporal for some of it too. So like telling your sergeant or your staff sergeant or God forbid a gunny that you have to stop. Oh, the worst one for me, I just remembered it. I was the company gunny. I actually had to take Kelsey into work because the person that used to watch Kelsey for my family care plan was sick and she couldn't do it. I had to wake Kelsey up at like 4:30, 4:45 in the morning to get to PT. I was pushing Kelsey in a legitimate stroller for PT, like with the rest of the Marines, calling cadence, pushing Kelsey in the stroller. And then all of a sudden the bubble guts hit me.
Yeah. And
I tell one of the other Marines, I'm like, hey, you got to take my daughter, take her back to battalion. I ran into, I think it was the engineers barracks. And I was like, is there a common room head? And they're like, who are you? Show some identification. I'm like, I'm Sergeant Cothran. I'm the fucking company gunny of MP Company. Let me use a fucking head or I'm going to shit on the floor. And I go in there and it's one of those shits. Like it's when it gets to that point where everything's done coming out, but it's almost like you have aftershocks of an earthquake where it's still coming. And you're just like, I don't know if I can get up again or if this is where I live.
I just was like, I couldn't stand. That's how bad it was. Dave Burton DJ 0311 said in 2003, his entire company got dysentery in Al-Qud, Iraq. And to go off that, Tacos Y3S responded in Kirkuk, Iraq. He had the shit so bad he couldn't even hold water, and the nearest shitter was 150 yards away. Imagine, because he's right. The shitters are always very, very far. The bivouac sites have to be very far from where you live. Imagine a whole grunt company with dysentery, and the shitters are like 200 yards the fuck away. Like,
yeah, another dude, Chris Deason, said the same type of thing during combat training. I ate a fish sandwich at the chow hall for dinner. Big mistake. Went back to the Quonset huts to get gear for a late night hump. They made us all chug a canteen of water. Upon completing that, I projectile vomited onto the guy in front of me, and then we still had to hike.
Dude, so I didn't even give thought to it. I thought it might have just been a stomach bug, but I think the one time I got super sick in Iraq, I think it was dysentery because I was going to a new unit. So before I could get to the outpost where my unit was, I was up with battalion and I had to do a bunch of right seat rides to learn the AO and meet with a bunch of people, a bunch of elders and what have you. Like one of the first days I go out, we sit and we're having a meal. And of course we're just using our hands to eat and we're eating eggs with our hands. So you can imagine how that went for me. And I have a pretty iron stomach. I don't usually get affected by booze or weird foods or anything, but there was something, probably fecal matter in there that I ate. And I was brand new to the unit. Is there a worse feeling in the military than when you think your peers and subordinates think you're a get over? Because I had a fever. I was pooping, excuse my language, bad diarrhea, throwing up. I couldn't get out of bed. And the whole time I'm thinking, they just think I'm just faking this so I don't have to go out on these missions every day.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought that after I got fucking shot. Like when I came back and they were like, because you had to do a pre-deployment PFT and then a post-deployment PFT. And when I came back, they're like, you ain't got to do it. You still got stitches in your arm. I'm like, oh, I'm fucking doing it. I'm not going to go light duty. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not
for
some
a few
little
stitches.
bitch.
That's a big problem in the military. I love this one. Morgan Scott said one of our 4-person crew on our flight, so they're in a small plane, ate bad food in Afghanistan, ended up taking a shit on the plane in a plastic trash can. We had to finish the 5-hour flight with it just sitting in the middle of the twin prop plane. So they had this trash can full of shit just sitting
twin prop plane. You got to open up the window and throw that shit out.
Yeah.
You got to. I mean, the odds are if you're over Iraq or Afghanistan, what are the odds that you're going to hit somebody? Like in most places, like it's very small. It'd be like flying over the middle of America and throwing it out. The odds are you're not going to hit somebody.
You have a better chance of winning the lottery, I think.
And so many of the answers were overseas food poisoning. This guy, Smitty, U.S. Air Force said,
but it's so perfect because we have all these responses. We had like 200 responses on Instagram, a bunch on Twitter too. And they're all saying the same thing. But in the moment, you feel like you're the first person this has ever happened.
Yes.
Dude.
But the worst part, I think, Kate, that we're seeing so many people talk about times when they were deployed is even if you are in a place for a while and you kind of curate your setup to be as much like a home environment as possible, it's still not home. It's still not comfortable. So when you're uncomfortable and sick, it's a terrible feeling. Because you asked, like, what's like one of the worst places to get sick? I was thinking like a car, because even the most expensive car, you're never really comfortable, right? So anytime you can't get comfortable and feel cozy, I think you're in just bad shape.
The back of a helicopter or on a ship seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely bad.
If you're not on like an aircraft carrier, like one of the huge ones that doesn't really move a shit ton whenever, but if you're on like a cutter, like a Coast Guard cutter, and you're in high seas and everything's shaking you around and you already feel sick to your stomach, absolutely the worst. You don't feel your best, not like we will when we talk about round number 2, because round number 2 has us feeling excellent. I actually thought about this while I was 3G goofing the other night on what does the first person, like grown folks that shave their genitalia, what goes through your head? Like, did you eat some bad apples, some rotten apples that got a little fermented on the ground? Like, how do you get to that spot? So
I feel like back then, though, real quickly, I feel like back then it was probably more out of necessity. They probably got something, like crabs or something growing in there. They're like, all right, we got to cut this out.
We're going to get into that a little bit.
All right.
Walk us through what happens scientifically.
By the way,
this
round all came to be because Chaps was 3G group and just texted to the ZBT group chat like late at night over the weekend. Like, when do you think we all started shaving our pubes? Like, what humans?
Let me see if I can actually find the. Go ahead, Kate. You can walk us through. I'll see if I can find the.
Okay, from ancient Egyptian priests to fanatical British nudists, male body hair removal has always been a thing. While it might feel like the most modern of metrosexual maneuvers, the truth is that men have been shaving their pubes for at least 30,000 years. That's when the earliest flint razors have been dated to. So as soon as we figured out the razor, pubes were flying off. Supposedly, our cave-dwelling forebears also made use of everything from clamshells to shark's teeth to shave their pubes. But of course, the first and greatest hair removal trend wasn't conducted by men at all, but by evolution. Why did Homo sapiens lose their fur? In his 1967 biological bestseller, The Naked Ape, Desmond Morris credits our early development as hunters. By losing the heavy coat of hair and increasing the number of sweat glands on our body, we could cool off a lot faster, not for minute by minute living, but for the supreme moments of the chase. So basically, you would overheat with all that fur if you were trying to do a real hunt. But if you could cool off more quickly and you were a little more aerodynamic without all that fur.
Makes Leather King look like a bitch for shaving, huh?
Right, absolutely. While he's on the subject, Morris also lists some secondary advantages to pubic hair grooming, which range from sexual, heightened sensitivity from skin to skin, to medically prudent. So like being less susceptible to ticks and lice. Over the centuries, various civilizations have picked up on these 2 evolutionary cues and run with them. Now, ancient Greek and Roman cultures tended to promote shaven pubes, both in fetishization of youthful beauty. They were giant pervs. We know this, disgusting. And to distinguish themselves from barbarians who were super hairy. Around the year 65 AD, Roman philosopher Seneca revealed a fixation on male body hair that was both nuanced and neurotic, complaining that hair removal habits of younger generation were too refined. So he's saying, bring back the pubes. Come on. So whatever. Anyway.
That's how they got it. And this all started by a text at 11:18 on Saturday night where I said, I wonder what the first dude to shave his dick hair was thinking. I bet it threw his wife for a loop. 1780 and having a sheen hairless cock was far from normal. That's a fucking promise.
Yeah. And then I started Googling. I said, when did
imagine Ben Franklin walks out and he's got his hog it looks like Powder from the movie Powder.
Right. With a little wig on it, maybe.
It would be adorable. I think I want to get more scientific though. Like, why did it come about? Where did all this come? And this is exactly why Platonic thought shifted as well. Did you know that?
No, I don't know.
No, why?
They got like Socrates and the fellas got tired of their pupils starting to become grown men because they looked like more like men. So the relationship became more odd. So then they would have them shaved to maintain a boyish image.
Oh, just so they could keep hanging out with them?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Even weirder. Like you would want them to look like adults.
Weird. Yeah, big horny vibes from Socrates.
Yeah, that's weird. I bet you there was whole militaries too back in the day because of like lice and stuff like that. I bet it was like you had to. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's what I think.
Like in the Roman armies and stuff.
Yeah, like medical reasons.
Well, yeah, if you had lice and ticks and shit all covering your dick, that would really affect your mental health, and that would affect
a little bit.
So maybe if you have big time dick lice, maybe you should call up our friends at BetterHelp. They have the best online therapy. Do you like that one, Kate? Or no? Not a good one? Good transition? Bad transition?
Go on.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Good? All right, good. So many people think therapy is for quote unquote crazy people, but therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means that you recognize that all humans have emotions and we need to learn control about them. Also want to give a shout out to Jay Glazer in this regard. Jay Glazer this morning did like a 2-minute long video where he talked about he woke up today feeling like his entire brain, his entire outlook on the world was gray. He was like, yesterday was a good day. Something happened during my sleep. I woke up just super depressed, and I wanted to share that with other people to show that this is a normal part of my life. I deal with depression, I deal with anxiety, and somebody like Jay Glazer that's respected by not just athletes and in the media, but from like hardcore combat hardened veterans, they all like him and things like that. This could be anybody. It's us too. We deal with it. We use BetterHelp, so you should too. The podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/0. That's BetterHelp.com/0. Make sure you go check that out. And if you're a Gold Star family member, or if you know one, reach out to them and tell them to go to BetterHelp.com/goldstar. They're going to get you set up with 100% free therapy for all those Gold Star families from the GWAT era, which is still a very incredible thing that they're doing. Let's move on to round number 3. And today for round number 3, what do we got, Catherine?
We are sharing.
And you gotta excuse. Normally, I'd be like, keep yourself off, but the amount of coughing that Kate's doing, she gets a free pass for all mute faux pas.
Yeah. But we're talking about sharing underpants here. So supply chains and equipment turn-in have traditionally provided no shortage of consternation to service members.
Great word, consternation.
Consternation. It's not usually this personal, though. Military conscripts in Norway are now being asked to return all issued clothing items, including socks, bras, and underwear at the end of their service so they can be reissued to the next generation. So you're getting issued underwear that somebody wore not just like once, but through their entire enlistment.
That's terrible.
By the way, what the fuck? Can't you just wear your own hates?
Right.
No, because remember at boot camp, we all had the same exact ones.
But we labeled them though, and I wasn't wearing some other girl's underwear. The Norwegian military said Monday that the new policy reflects supply shortage caused in part by COVID-19. The Norwegian defense said that because of dwindling stockpiles, the move is necessary as it provides the armed forces with greater garment volumes available for new soldiers. Hans, great name, a spokesman for the organization, said that with proper checks and gleaning, the reuse of garments is considered adequate and sound practice.
By whose standards? But by whose standards?
But it's technically true.
Like a hotel? People are coming all over. Let me tell you.
Dude, we're ripping ropes on those fucking sheets.
Every single sheet you have ever slept in a hotel has had previous ropes ripped all over it.
Exactly.
Right. You know what?
It looks like a non-dusty version of like a Cafe du Monde
type
of benet.
Right. I gotta be honest, I hadn't given extensive thought to that until just now, and I'm extremely uncomfortable.
But
So,
they wash it
thank you.
super hot water. So
I
No,
guess.
they don't. Anytime have you seen a laundry quote go by at a hotel? Have you ever seen a comforter on one?
no.
Fucked up.
They must do those at night.
No, they never do them. I need to talk to somebody because it just doesn't happen. They don't clean those comforters. You're sleeping in other people's cum when you're at hotels. You just got to get used to it.
For sure. Anyway, the plan was initially meant to be voluntary. So if you wanted to help out the cause, you could return it. But because of delays, it's becoming mandatory. A defense union spokesman.
Like you can volunteer to have somebody else's old shit. Oh, yeah, I'll take her panties. It's not because I'm a creep.
Yeah. A spokesman said that this has actually been a recurring problem for several years. In June of 2020, people were missing up to a third of their issued clothing and equipment. So that's pretty rough. In the US, service members' only exposure to military issue skivvies is in basic training. Earlier this year, it was reported that the Marine Corps was eliminating an annual allowance allotted to male Marines to ensure proper maintenance of their drawers. A spokesman of the Marine Corps Uniform Board said that the annualized line item for men's underwear was 72 cents. So you could maybe get half a pair of boxers for that.
Yeah, what are you going to get?
Anyway.
The dick flap for 72 cents?
Yeah, what are you going to get for that anyway? It's just a stupid thing. Get rid of it, whatever. So yeah, there you go.
Pretty incredible.
You guys got an allowance for underwear?
I guess 72
Am I reading that
cents.
correctly?
72 cents.
72
okay.
cents. I
All
guess they like line on. I mean, that stuff, the uniform allowance is bullshit anyway. I think it was like $280 every other year that you would get. What does that replace? That replaced nothing.
Nothing.
Like, the camis are like the trousers are like $80.
Mm-hmm.
The most
I
expensive
never-
pants I've ever purchased outside of a suit is Marine Corps trousers.
Yeah. And unbelievable. Luckily, you guys have stayed strong with your uniforms, but in the Army, we got new uniforms seemingly with each generation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right, let's move on to round number 4. This one we're excited about because it's Larry David. Although he was one of the most lauded comedians in Hollywood, Larry David never saw himself becoming a writer or comedian. After graduating from the University of Maryland in 1970, he was lost and had little direction from his parents, who wanted him to take a job as a mailman, which would be hilarious too. Like Larry David as a mailman would be fantastic comedy. Like him dealing with your dogs, yelling at your dogs, yelling at people for complaining like that he put the letter in the wrong spot. It'd be endless content if he was just a mailman. The future writer of Saturday Night Live and co-creator of Seinfeld and creator of Curb Your Enthusiasm joined the Army Reserve for one very important reason: to avoid going to Vietnam. He regretted it almost immediately. He had never held a weapon, was terrible at push-ups and sit-ups, and basic training did not go well for David. That wasn't the worst part of it, he told Howard Stern in a 2015 interview. He said, I had an apartment in New York, and I would go to Brooklyn for the weekend, stay with my parents, and spend all Saturday and Sunday at Fort Benning Field.
Floyd Bennett
Bennett
Field.
Field.
It's awesome, by the way. It's really cool.
Oh, you've been there?
I've ridden my bike around it a few times in Brooklyn. Yeah,
Oh.
it's really cool. It's by the beach.
He said he had especially hated the monthly meetings in Brooklyn because his hair had grown out of regulations. His solution was a creative one. He and his fellow soldiers stuffed their big curly 1970s style fro into crew cut wigs. David said his entire unit wore the same style of wigs to the monthly meeting. I have been in for 2 years, and every summer you had to go to summer camp for 2 weeks and sleep in a tent. I mean, the whole thing was absurd. I love that he calls it summer camp.
Yeah.
Like he's fucking with the
so
Boy
David.
Scouts.
Yeah.
I'm in summer camp. The whole thing was absurd. And David spent 5 years in the Army Reserve, almost twice as long as the required service of the draftee. He concocted a plan to separate 1 year early with the help of a psychiatrist. Then I heard about this psychiatrist who was writing letters to get people out of the reserve. I got the name of the psychiatrist. I acted a little crazy because he was looking at me to act a little crazy. He wrote me this letter, and I read the letter. According to the letter, I'm stark raving mad and can't be in the military. David had to take this letter to his next reserve weekend and hand it to his commanding officer, having to act the way the letter described him. This was only 1 month later. I was fine a month ago. I have to walk into the hangar. I sort of isolate myself from everyone, and I was looking around. My eyes are darting around, and I see people nudging each other, pointing at me. Finally, he walks up to the NCO and asks to talk to the unit commander. Once in the commander's office, David handed him the letter and began knee deep in his performance, living this part. After 5 minutes of rambling and raving, the officer asked David if he's able to drive home, and that was it. David was out of the Army Reserve. David worked as a series of jobs after leaving the military, including a New York cab driver, a private chauffeur, and a stand-up comedian before getting his gig as a writer on Saturday Night Live between 1984 and 1985. Incredible. That would be the Stripes of our generation, for real.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if anybody could write it, clearly he could.
Yeah, he would crush it. I mean,
he would definitely crush it.
Them going and showing up in fucking wigs.
Yeah. I've never heard that before.
That's the same time
fantastic.
that Mr. Portnoy was in too.
I was going to say, reading this reminded me of who we've had on the show, Mr. Portnoy, who
very similar personality.
Yeah,
very
there's a lot of
personality and very similar, like, much respect to the troops, but it's just not my cup of tea. What the fuck?
It's not for everybody.
We should make that movie, ZBT, the Mike Portnoy story.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you guys watch Curb?
I want to watch it regularly, but I just always forget about it.
Yeah. Oh,
and
man,
obviously
it's just so funny.
was
Obviously,
big. Seinfeld was the biggest one of all that he worked on there. But
you think so? You think Seinfeld for him is bigger than Curb?
100%.
Like as far
as
I mean,
absolutely.
not for overall, of course, Seinfeld's a bigger show, but I mean personally for Larry David.
Oh yeah,
like,
I don't know. Yeah, for
like
sure.
his fame, I think, because the writers of big time shows like Mindy Kaling, like she's very funny and is known for being a comedian and having her own show, but she was one of the primary writers on The Office, and I don't think she's known for being the primary writer on The Office like Larry David. If he walks down the street, like that's guy from Curb.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I mean, Seinfeld is obviously one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, but it was Seinfeld who was front and center. And most people probably, I bet you a lot of people had no idea that Larry David co-created that with Seinfeld, but we didn't see the quirkiness that was Seinfeld until Curb. So I would agree for him specifically. I would agree that Curb really put the absolute absurdity that is Larry David and all his quirks. It was definitely Curb.
And it's fantastic. Kate had to drop off. I imagine it's coronavirus related because she's back. I thought I was going to have Nick just put up a picture of the coronavirus in Kate's little square while she's gone, but we don't have to do that. Luckily. The last thing that they said was that he wasn't actually able to do anything unscripted at first because he was just waiting for other people like spit it out, which is very Larry David too. Like you would imagine he's so quick-witted and so sharp that having to wait on other people to spit out their last little joke would be like, oh, come on, get it out of here.
Yeah.
Can you just spit it out? What I'm wearing this sweater. Can you spit it out? You're not going to wear the sweater. Let's move on to round number 5, which is my surprise round. And the surprise round today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at True Classic Tees. If you are wearing shitty tees, maybe you should stop. You should get the ones that are being advertised all over the place, and it's because they're fantastic. They have long body options for people like our guy Pat at Barstool. They also have extra large, which lots of people at Barstool wear too. There's first thing you notice right out of the bag is how soft they are. People have been throwing away their old shirts because they are so glad to have these ones. This is the same type of quality you get from a premium clothing brand, but at a better price. Your one-stop shop for men's essentials, super easy and simple to fill out your wardrobe essentials, from the flagship tee to polos. First of all, before we go any further, KFC from KFC Radio had a take the other day that he wears hoodies without undershirts underneath. Barbaric, just barbaric.
Crazy, disgusting, absolutely just horrible,
gross all
what
around.
What kind of uncouth gentleman are you?
Even sweatpants without underwear is disgusting. Like the only spot that a sweatshirt should ever touch you is on your arms below your t-shirt, and your sweatpants should just be below your boxer line. That's it. The rest of the time it clings to your skin and it makes you so hot. You need to have that layer. It's the same thing of using a comforter without a top sheet. You got to have the top sheet.
I agree.
Top sheet.
That's Chaps, the t-shirt is the top sheet of the body.
That's exactly right. Get yourself a nice top sheet because it makes a huge difference. You're not going to be putting 100 thread count sheets on your bed, so don't be putting it on your body either. True Classic donates 10,000 shirts a month to homeless veterans, shelters, schools, and communities in need. They've also helped build over 35 tiny homes for homeless veterans in Savannah, Georgia. Go to trueclassic.com for 20% off by using the promo code ZBT. Again, that's trueclassic.com and in the search for your perfect shirt. We're now going to move into our surprise round. Kate and Cons, any idea what it actually is? Any idea?
I would have said something about pubes, but we already covered that.
Yeah,
No.
I've long given up trying to get inside your brain and figuring it out.
That's
so
probably
just,
for the best.
Yeah, have at
That's
it.
probably for the best. So as Kate knows and Cons does too, and I tweet about it a lot, huge fan, not a huge fan, but a huge fan of 1,000 Pound Sisters.
Yes.
And in this last season, Tammy's up to about 660 now. She's put on the old LBs and she wears I think it's not a True Fit shirt or a True Classic shirt. It's not that at all. She wears, I think, just essentially curtains that she fashions into clothes and leans back on the chairs, and that's what they do. But her and Amy, they both are very uncouth, I would say. Like if uncouth, probably the best word that there is to describe them, because they're not exactly the classiest of folks. No harm on their own part. That's exactly where they were raised, how they were raised, and things like that. So you can't really blame them a whole lot. But they went to etiquette classes. And they sat down with this very Southern Kentucky woman who was giving them how to have like a Southern style tea breakfast or brunch where you have good manners, how to set your tableware. And she was asking the questions and I was answering the etiquette questions, and my wife was shocked that I knew them because of what we talked about at the top of the show when I'm ripping fucking burps and talking about cum and farts on all my shows.
You're a disgusting human, right?
I'm gross. I eat venison, I sweat, all that stuff. Sorry, Kate, that was the bridge too far on today's show. But they had these etiquette questions and I thought, she said, how do you know that? And Kate, I don't think did you ever do Corporal's course?
Yes.
What's Corporal's course?
Corporal's course is like Sergeant's course. It's like the NCO development course. When you first become an NCO, you go to Corporal's course, and it's something that you have to do before you can become a sergeant. And then you have like your continuing education as an NCO. Well,
it's like a refresher on everything Marine Corps. It's kind of like a good refresher as you become an NCO on everything Marine Corps.
Elevated boot camp, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like you're going through how to do.
They treat you like shit.
It's where you first learn how to do like sword manual, like for if you're going to be leading a platoon with a sword, like you learn all that stuff there. Well, I learned the etiquette courses from Staff Academy because it's one of the things you talk about before setting up. They have classes where they tell you where to place your fork, how to place it on your plate whenever you're done. Same thing when you get to Japan. When I went to Okinawa, they gave you customs and courtesies classes for Japan on ways to act. Like, for instance, that's how I know, like, if you're a Japanese person and you bow, it's polite if you're the younger person to bow more deeply than the older person because it's extending respect. If you're going out to a sushi restaurant or going to eat fried rice or something like that, you don't take your chopsticks and just stick it into the rice because that means that you want the cook who did it to be dead. It's a symbol of a funeral. Whenever it's sticking up like a tombstone is how you do it. If you want it, you place it on the side of the plate. So I learned all of those things in the Marine Corps. So I wanted to see how well you all do on etiquette tests.
Okay.
And this is going to be interesting. All right. So first one, when you're introducing yourself, which name should you say? A, your full name. For instance, you would give Jenna Marie Bolton, or B, you give your full name and your name that you want to be called if it's different, like Jenna Marie Bolton, but people call me Jen. Or C, the name you want the other person to call you by and your last name. Cons, you first.
I always introduce myself full name. How you doing? Connor Crehan, nice to meet you.
But people also call you Connor. So this one might not be fair for you. Like you, Kate, you go by Kate, but your name is Catherine.
Yeah.
Whenever you introduce yourself, how do you do it?
I always just say Kate because I don't do anything fancy, but I assume the answer is B. We're like, hi, I'm Catherine Mannion, but you can call me Kate.
No, the answer is actually the way that Kate does it. It's you do it by what you want them to call, because if you do it the other way, you're asking them to remember too much stuff about you. That can be seen as rude.
Wow. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
Call me Kate.
All right. Second up, when introducing two people, you should give both of their names. A, B, give their names and a bit of information about each person, or C, give a bit of information about each person if that person is a family member. Otherwise, in respect for the person's privacy, you don't mention anything about them.
B.
Cons?
Yeah, I think you give a little color, so I'd say B too.
You guys are exactly right.
Yeah.
If you know one or more of the people, it's gracious to share a bit of information about it. I always appreciate that when somebody does that. Like if
Helps
we
get
all
a
go out
conversation going.
right. If we go out somewhere, all three of us, and we're meeting somebody, and I am the only person that knows, like, oh, this is my co-host Cons. He went to West Point. He talks about it all the time. This is Kate. She had COVID. Like that's the polite thing to do. Number 3. During an in-person conversation, what percentage of your message is delivered through your spoken word? 7%, 38%, or 55%?
30 whatever percent, because a lot of it's in your
38.
face and your stance.
What
Yeah.
an odd number to pick, 38%.
Yeah, 38.
Right.
It's actually just 7%. People pick up most about you from your unspoken language, which is true. Like when I think about it, how I interact with people, I feel like, and my wife and I talk about this a lot, I'm a good judge of character right from the jump, like on how somebody's going to act. Like I feel like I can read people pretty well. Just the way that they look, like at their eyes and look around the room, or how they interact with people, you can tell so much about somebody from their body language and how they carry themselves.
It sucks because my face always portrays exactly how I'm feeling, and it betrays me all the time when I'm trying to be just like chill or whatever. My face just I can't.
I
be a
feel like
terrible
I'm that
spy.
way too. If I'm mad, I feel like everybody in the room knows.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, same here.
Yeah,
Same
I
here.
get told all the time I have resting bitch face, which
See,
I
don't
actually
think you do, Cons. I
Thank
don't
you.
agree with that for you. I feel like you always have. Generally, your disposition is pretty sunny, I would say.
I like to try. Although one time, many years ago, I was doing this corporate training type stuff, and they said, "Do you realize how angry you look when you're listening to someone?" And they videotaped us so you could see yourself. And I watched myself back, and I thought, "Oh my God, I look like I want to jump across the table and hit this guy." Meanwhile, I was just listening intently to what the person was saying. So it's always been very top of mind for me to worry about what my face looks like. And actually Zoom's kind of like a cheat code, because you are obviously looking at yourself, so you can kind of remind yourself, like, all right, like kind of half smile or do something so you don't look like you're pissed off at
Clenched
everyone.
jaw. That's the big
Yeah.
one. Like if you have, and I used to do that all the time because that helped me maintain bearing. Because I was always like had like my goofy fucking personality on the inside. Nice jaw, Nick. Nick's got an
unbelievable jaw.
I would have really
Good
liked
jaw.
to go back. We should have a jaw off between me when I was 25 and Nick's jaw. Nick, how old are you, Nick? 35?
I'm 36.
Right.
Man, what a good guess. I think Kate's got to go have diarrhea. So Nick put up the virus for her while she's gone. That's not good etiquette. Having to shit in the middle of your podcast. Out. Unbelievable. Was that? Oh, no, she didn't have to shit. I had told the listener that you texted us that you politely stepped out on the pod.
No. No, I didn't.
All right, let's move on.
I'm gonna green screen just like poop just in her box.
You should do
during
that
one.
hippo that has like the tail
Yeah.
wagging it around all over the joint. She is coughing big time though. She's gonna be okay. We're almost done. Last one. When you say I'm sorry, what does this one's definitely for Kate. When you say I'm sorry, what does your apology apply that most people aren't aware is included in an apology? A, what you said or you did made the other person feel bad. B, you promise not to do the same thing again. Or C, you did not live up to your own standards.
I guess they're missing out. It's mostly self-hatred thing. I
Yeah.
say sorry about 100 times a day for everything. You could punch me in the face and I would tell you I'm sorry.
What about just like a vicious and unrelenting habit that you have?
Oh, it's
Like to say,
terrible.
sorry about the most mundane thing. Oh, you have gum? Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. to
All
hear
right.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, you have gum. I had no idea.
The baby does something and I'm like, sorry, everyone. Like, he's a
Oh, the
fucking
baby cried. Yeah, that's what they do.
Anyway, the first one, I guess you want to let the person know, like, you are sorry because you could tell you hurt them.
No, the actual
I think
answer
I think it's B, that you'll
Yes.
never do it again.
that you're never going to do it again, which is unrealistic. That's an
Totally.
unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer. This used to get me in big trouble in relationships. I've adjusted since growing, but I used to be a firm. I will not say I'm sorry unless I am sorry. like just to make somebody else appeased. Like a lot of times you can end an argument, end a fight if you just say you're sorry. I used to be huge on, I'm a man of integrity. If I say I'm sorry, I'm going to mean it. And if I don't mean it, I'm not going to say it. I don't think what I did was wrong, so I'm not going to say I'm sorry, which extends arguments needlessly. It's a great principle, but foolish.
Yeah.
Foolish.
It's so foolish. I'm the same way though, dude. Like I'm not going to apologize if I genuinely think what I did was not wrong. I'll say it just to
like
kind
Big
of
T today.
everything.
No reason to apologize to Rico. Zero.
To who?
Rico. Big reason to apologize to Big T. You can't be throwing high noon cans at people.
Listen,
Did he
you cannot.
You better be
apologize?
glad that wasn't a can of Whistle Pig. You don't waste that shit.
Right.
Did Rico apologize?
No,
Not
he got
yet.
suspended for 30 days.
What was he mad about?
Big T called him Terrence.
Which, as we know, is his name. So
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting choice.
Mhm. So I changed my name on Twitter to Matthew.
Yes, I saw that, Matthew. Government name.
I will say it is bizarre when people call me Matthew.
Yeah.
Like when I am just like doing, like when people call, if I get a phone call and the first thing is, can I speak to Matthew? I immediately know,
You're like,
one,
wait, who's this?
that's not the sound of my mother or my mom's or my wife's voice. I have no business talking to you. Even Dave and Erica had no idea my name was Matthew for like the first year I worked.
Dude, that was the
Barstool.
funniest
Right.
thing. They were looking at the payroll one time. I remember the story. They said, like, who is this Matthew guy we've been paying?
Yeah, they did that and they paid me double that they were supposed to do, but I had
Yeah.
integrity and told them that they were paying me double. I don't think they would have ever known, dude. Like legitimately. Maybe now that like Penn is involved with some of the payroll and like the cheering group, but if it was just old school Barstool where Dave was in charge of like looking at the payroll, he would have never figured out.
No
that he was paying me
shot.
double.
No
Never.
shot. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, I think now we're certainly a more buttoned up company now, but I think that could have went on for a long time had you not said something.
No doubt about it. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Nick, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So save rounds. I feel like it's a kind of a thing that's going with the food tasting with the World War II recipe.
Yeah.
Again, people just commenting on the milk choice. I think I made it very clear. That's the milk that my daughter prefers, and that is the milk that will be
Listen,
sticking in
Nick.
the house.
Mhm.
Absolutely no reason to even explain it. If people are coming at you because you're drinking a half gallon of organic milk, one, they have no value of the American dollar whatsoever. If you get regular milk that's not organic, you're a fool unless you absolutely chug it every single day. One, because of the expiration date. The organic kind will last like 3-4 weeks in the fridge. The other one doesn't. So if you're going to just eat an occasional bowl of cereal here and there, going organic is the cost conscious way. Sure, you can go down to the car dealership and say, give me a 1988 Civic because it's $3. But if you spend a little bit more money, you're going to have one that's not going to be in the shop every other week. That's a little bit more reliable.
Exactly. And this is a podcast of integrity. So I do want to own that. I need to be better with the directions. I needed to cut it down into different types of pieces. So I'm putting myself on fire watch for that.
And Kate has left. So once again, the coronavirus logo will be back in her box.
Yes.
Cons, what do you got?
Oh, rough day for our Catherine. I feel bad
Mhm.
for her because she is a tough cookie. So
She is.
you know that she is really hurting and down bad if this is the case. I think over the course of Christmas, New Year's, when we were taking our break, we never mentioned the passing of Dick Marcinko. Or Marcinko. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. He was the founding member of the Navy SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
Served the country honorably, and so rest in peace to him. Stetson Bennett this morning on Good Morning America after winning the national championship just reminded me so many times of seeing my soldiers show up to PT on a Monday just after they clearly had a great Sunday. Good for him. And then finally, Chaps, I don't know what you and I and Kate can do along with the help from Nick, but we need to talk to somebody at USAA because I'm getting visibly upset and angry every time I see these damn Gronk commercials.
And I love
him.
Gronk. I think
I
Gronk
know.
is great. And
That's the thing.
he's a fun guy. It's super nice. Like, as somebody who's uber famous, he like came up to me at Barstool to like introduce himself to me, like, hey, Gronk, I've read a couple of your blogs. They're funny.
Yeah.
Like, nice to meet you. Or actually, he doesn't say I'm Gronk. He goes by his first name.
Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
just
hey,
think
Rob.
they're setting him up for failure here, and you're just setting him up for the military and veteran community to dislike him. And I don't want to dislike him because, as you said, he's a fantastic person.
And stop making him seem like he's dumb as a box of rocks. He's not that dumb. He remembers all the play. He's not dumb at all.
He's just a kind of a goofy, happy-go-lucky guy. He's definitely not dumb. And it's just cringy when he's like, well, can I get some insurance? Like, it just makes me uncomfortable. I'm sorry.
The worst. Bring back Alejandro Villanueva.
Yeah, that was perfect. You have it built in. It's easy. Makes sense.
Or that fake ass sergeant that has a Pomeranian that's a dog handler.
So many other options.
Or fucking me. Like, let me do it.
Seriously.
They don't want us. That's what doesn't make sense. Like, we reached out to them for advertising before, and they said it's too dangerous. Gronk's entire thing is fucking cunnilingus and sucking dick. Like, that's
seriously. He's not dangerous. He doesn't have bad press about just partying all the time. Interesting. Anyway, those are my save rounds.
I don't really have any. Got big time stuff. We're doing big time adulting here. Got to look into doing a kitchen reno, which is not looking forward to that.
Toolies though.
Are you going to do it yourself?
Great opportunity.
Fuck no, dude.
Oh, my wife, okay. Thank God.
My wife would never, and I wouldn't even try. Like, even if she would, you got to know your limits.
Yeah, even if you could though, that's too time consuming. You wouldn't be able to do your job.
I mean, I couldn't do it by myself. Granite slabs, turns out they're heavy. Like,
yeah,
not me and McCartney moving up a granite slab up 3 flights of stairs. No thanks, not gonna happen. So we'll be back on Friday. Hopefully, Kate will be better. Send her Venmo is open at Kate Mannion. Send her a Venmo to get some ice cream for her sore tonsils that are just hawking up the inside of her body over and over again. Until then, we'll see you on Friday. It's On the Retreat.